I guess I've always wanted to have you on the show because I knew that of anybody that can give me detailed answers or even detailed suggestions of what could be, I knew that you would be that person. I know you've been in this a long time. I've known you for, a good few years in this space specifically. But it's very, very good to have you on the show. And congrats on the success thus far. I know that this crypto space and this fintech space is going to be one that's a little roller coaster-ish. Mm-hmm. But it's good to see that things are moving in the right direction, both development and policy. Mm-hmm. But welcome onto the show, Mark. I guess I want to start by, for those who may not necessarily know, because I think that our audience is decently diverse, and I want to kind of start by introducing, I guess, you and your company and what you all have been up to, and then we could go into all of the policy stuff and all of the good stuff. So I guess walk us through your company, the business model, and exactly what virtual asset services you all are involved in.
Yeah. So this is a really good time to be talking to us, right? And thanks for having me on the show, and I'm real happy to be here because we have been pretty silent about what we're doing, right? And for very good reason. We want to be that company that is pushing the boundaries, is innovating, doing it in the right way. And we showcase that by going through the process of getting our license, knowing very well that, if you look at Z Labs, what we were doing, we were building out crypto wallets before, and then we came back to Trinidad, and then we implemented a traditional wallet. So a lot of people think Wam is actually crypto. Wam is not crypto in the back end. It's actually same technology as banks, a double entry accounting system, but it's a hybrid, meaning that we can bridge assets across a traditional system, which you benefit from with centralization. You don't often hear that. And then benefit from decentralization because you have to have certain mechanisms and safety controls within a system.
I agree.
For the general populace. Not everyone is a crypto expert. So that is what we learned that a lot of these things along the way too. So essentially, that is what I came back to Trinidad to do, is to play ball the right way and push this country forward in a patriotic way. A lot of people ask me why Trinidad is 80% patriotism and then like 20% strategy, Right. So, and I think that, you and me, we would know is blockchain is the future. It's 10 years ahead. We are walking along the path to get there. Mm-hmm. Regulations are catching up, and we're trying to be ahead of them so that we could push things forward for the people. Because ultimately, it's a people-built currency, and we want to keep that with us. Every step that we take is eye on the customer rather than the profits, the margins, the high-level networking things. So yeah, essentially what we're doing from WAM's perspective is aiding people getting into the digital economy through an application. And what that means is you sign up for the app, you can get TT dollars, and that's digital e-money issued by the central bank through WAM. And from there, you can transact peer-to-peer from myself to yourself to another business. You can send it across the country, Trinidad to Tobago, Toco to Port of Spain, Guaya to Icacos, and eventually from Trinidad to Barbados,
right.
Trinidad to Jamaica, US to Trinidad. The goal is to be as borderless as cryptocurrency is and have Trinidadians experience that, also regionally Caribbeanites experience that through our application. We want to be that go-to application where individuals are transacting between each other.
No, then I didn't think I was going to go off script already. But then I want to ask, are you specifically, or are you all your company, is WAM going after, obviously you want to be as broad as possible, but is remittance something that would be kind of heavily something that you all will be going after? Because you said Barbados to Trinidad, USA to Trinidad. Yeah. I'm assuming the UK to Trinidad, all these kind of diaspora communities. Yeah. So is remittance something? I know the remittance business is supposed to be big. I don't really know specifics, but.
Yeah, and we're poised for it. We have our license in Canada, so you can look up right now. WAM is a money service business licensed in Canada for remittances. That's 20% of the market. another 60% of the market. We have a money transmitters license in the US in all 50 states. We have a BIT license in New York through our partnership. And that gives us the poise to be able to develop virtual currencies that allows a Canadian and a US citizen to come into Trinidad, sign up for WAM, input their currency into the wallet, and then pay locals. So the US is coming in via tourism, via someone sitting on a couch in New York, sending money back home to their family in Trinidad. And yeah, that is the big play for us and we're licensed in Trinidad to issue e-money. And then we have the licenses on the outside with capture around 80% of the remittance market with those two countries, right? So big time. That's the play. We're putting it out there.
No, that's awesome. I think it's a great, I think it's a good direction. Because I think if you really think about digital wallet, digital currency, there's peer-to-peer transfers, there's remittance, and there's payment for services. I mean, those would be the three categories of transactions.
Yeah.
Where do you see the bulk of Trinidad, of the bulk of the transactions happening in what sort of category for Trinidad? Is it equal? Do you think remittance is going to be that transactionary process that kind of rears its head as the leader, if you will, in terms of the transactions? Or do you think that peer-to-peer is something that people are calling for? Is the citizenry calling for to be able to trade? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, from what we're seeing, peer-to-peer, it depends, right? Because there's volumes that will happen, and then there's how much profit you can make on those volumes, right? So international remittance transaction, you net higher on your margins per transaction. So, the flows of US that are coming in might match the amount of remittances, like international remittances to the peer-to-peer remittances that we're seeing. What we're seeing in our system is the peer-to-peer remittances is the most used feature right now for WAM. And that is in underserved areas, so areas that don't really have good banking systems, but also in like little communities within the city where people are using it to like pay back for each other for dinner and lunch and other things. Like we're seeing that WAM economy start to grow,
or at least show where you can focus attention to try and get users.
Exactly, but peer-to-peer we make no money on. That's actually a loss generating transaction for internal remittances. Any international remittance is where you net in terms of profit, because that's a service and a system that you don't have. Like being able to send from Trinidad to Barbados does not currently exist in the format of an instant payment right now. Neither for a US transaction. It's near instant, but you have to leave your house. You have to go to Western Union. I was about to
ask. The traditional modes would be Western Unions and MoneyGram.
And then the Swift rails via banking.
Right.
Then you have to have, US dollar accounts to receive it locally with certain banks. And
true.
So the system right now is pretty expensive and restricted. And restricted in terms of access. The fact that we did a wide market research in Northeast Trinidad in the Toco Matlot region, and people have to leave their house and travel 2 hours into the city to collect a remittance transaction and then spend $20 to go there, $20 to go back. So it's if you can get that money instantly on your phone with lower fees than those remittance providers, then you have a blow mind solution. So that's what our aim is to peer-to-peer, phone-to-phone, and there's peer-to-peer remittances, international remittances, which is our highest net. And you mentioned the merchant transactions. Yeah. So tap-to-phone is coming to WAM. So a coconut vendor will be able to
just hold this phone out and you tap it with
and a tourist comes, tap on the phone.
So I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty versed technologically, but I don't use the tap anything on my phone. I've never used that.
Okay.
Is it as simple as opening up the WAM app, typing in how much you're going to pay?
Yeah.
Forgive my ignorance. Typing in how much you're supposed to pay and just tapping it on the
device. Yeah, you just hold it up to the device. I could show you a demo.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Later. It's exactly that. Like I hold the device up to your card and then you just tap it and you hear a beep and a transaction.
To the card?
Yeah, the card to the phone.
As in credit card or Wam card?
Credit or debit card.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Wam card is also something that's coming.
Right.
So crypto-backed.
Did I just bust that by accident?
I letting everybody know what's
Good.
going on.
I like that.
Because now we can, now we're,
exactly.
we're in the position where we want to let the market know what's going on and to the viewers, they're hearing it the first time.
Okay, great. I'm glad that this was the breaking news. But I guess now let's go to one of the reasons why I was so eager to have you on, the Virtual Asset Bill, VAS.
Yeah.
VAVAS, Virtual Asset and Virtual Asset Services Bill.
Yeah.
What we heard back in the end of September, beginning of October, just before the budget, was one that I guess shook things up a little bit. People were a little concerned. It created I guess a sort of a panic, which was, I think, in many ways justified. In that business would not be able to proceed as normal, whether you are a common person holding on trading cryptocurrencies, or if you were a business developing innovations in the cryptocurrency space. And then I heard that this, which I think is, again, you mentioned is perfect time that you came on, but this last Friday, that's I think 3-4 days ago as of today's recording, has kind of changed, brought in some of those amendments that you, and I'm assuming others, were consulting with the government. Can you tell us what some of those major changes were from the old amendment to the old bill to the new amended bill?
Yeah, for sure. So this is real interesting, right? This whole virtual asset service provider bill, because I don't know if you remember when you heard this bill dropped
I did.
Right? So you were doing what you were, I don't know, just you saw it in a group chat.
It was a Friday, late Friday night. I just happened to wake up and I opened up one of my group chats and I saw this bill and I thought to myself, well, this is the opposite direction of where we're supposed to be wanting to go.
Yeah.
That was my first reaction. And then I thought, wait a minute, don't we have people like yourself developing products locally? How does this affect them? I mean, this just was flatline everything.
Yeah. So yeah, and that same thing with me. I actually, all right, so I'll give you the full rundown of how it went on, because that shook me not to my core, but that obliterated so much. I just launched the Works co-working space. I think it was on the Thursday or the Friday. And, I'm on the weekend now, just like, I could finally take a rest. And then Saturday, I just completely moved all digital devices away from me. And then Sunday morning, now I'm syncing up on my chat and I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on here? They're going to ban crypto. And I'm like, this way there's no rest for the wicked.
Yeah.
We now go into full gear. We kind of had word that this was going to happen from before. We got a whiff of it, and we activated and we actually developed a virtual asset service provider bill in combat to what we were hearing, because we heard under the PNM government they're going to ban crypto.
Right.
And this is what's interesting, is that the PNM have been consulting with the IMF, with the World Bank, with the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, with the FATF internationally and the regional one. And for 5 years did nothing. PNM government, right? And
is it I don't mean to cut you.
Sorry.
Is it a fair? Why would a government want to ban? I mean, is it a fair that there are that it will undermine the local TT dollar? Is there an enforcement that would be difficult? I mean, why would a government want to ban it? From your perspective, this is total speculation.
Off the cuff, I mean, Minister of Finance stated that they do not support cryptocurrencies, and I mean, you can see that crypto kind of was undermining the TT dollar, because it was you had the forex arbitrage, people black market trading, and there's no regulation around it, and there's no oversight from the central bank nor the government. So quite naturally, if you weren't educated on, to me, the best defense is a good offense. It's not the best defense is to ban something. We've seen that with China, like it doesn't help.
And it doesn't work.
Right. So essentially that's what the government that's the way the government treated certain things. Is if there's a threat, then you ban it and you push it out.
And you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about enforcement. You don't have to worry about policy, nothing.
Right. So, and then that was the FATF. The FATF, if you boil it all down to why this is such a time-sensitive matter, is that the FATF have a certain deadline for us to meet in March 2026.
Right.
And where we will go through our evaluation. And in that time, they're going to justify whether or not we are going to, go back on the gray blacklist. Essentially, we're going to be rated. So when it comes down to it, there's this binary test for the FATF where you can be compliant by banning crypto, but you still have to when you ban it, have to monitor it and show how you're monitoring and making sure it's not happening. Or you can regulate it, which is a comprehensive job to do. So when it comes to this virtual asset service provider bill, it comes through, lands up on a desk. Then again, there wasn't much education as to why it's happening, but there's a deadline that they needed to meet so that the Trinidad could make sure that they're compliant. And then they looked at the binary test and kind of went, all right, let's ban it. Then it comes out, get into Parliament, we get whiff of it, and that's when the responsibility gets dropped on my shoulders. Boom, Mark, you are the person who is regulated as an EMI, and you're also who you've been put on the central bank stage to talk about cryptocurrency regulation. You're the guy. Go forth. On top of launching the works, on top of everything that's going on, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, an entrepreneurial journey. There's no support in Trinidad for entrepreneurs, like virtually none. We've never gotten a grant. We've never gotten anything like that. It's all been private funding. Well, from Trinidadian, it's all been outside, interestingly enough, outside funding. So on top of everything, I now have to, with everything I have to do during the week, drop it all and then lobby for the first time in my life and figure out the ins and outs of contacting media, sending out information to both the opposition and the acting ministers, WhatsApp ministers, and get their numbers and just cold WhatsApp. And it was an eye-opening experience for me as an individual, because I've now gone from a product developer to a political scientist.
Right.
And then we go on the Morning Brew News. I form a virtual asset working group along with Alexander Gafour, who's a part of the FinTech Association. So we just assumed board of the FinTech Association. And then we come up with the idea to form the virtual asset working group. It's a WhatsApp group. We bring in all the players. We bring in Guap, TT Exchange, Wam, Virtual Finance, and a few others who are within our close remit. And we begin conversations around how we're going to solve this. And we have meetings with ministers and go on news. And that was our entire coordinated effort for us to educate the public, educate the government. And then to the current governments, I have to give a lot of big up to the current government. And the AG said it in the parliamentary reading, is that the previous government would have said, we would have kicked up a stink, and then it'd have been like, well, they ain't riot yet, right? And that was the AG words. Let's just leave it at that. And what this minister did, when we kicked up a stink, they brought us into the Ministry of Finance, and they sat us down in a room with the Minister of Finance, who at the time was preparing for budget. So our next, you have to give him props for that, because he's under so much pressure and he takes his time out to come and hear us out. And they listened to us, and he's like, look, normally this doesn't happen where we come to an agreeable decision. At the end of that meeting, we came to an agreeable decision. We had another meeting where they brought in the central bank, the SEC and the FIU and the AG and the junior minister of finance. So a second meeting, again with the virtual asset working group, because we created a group so that the public sector could interface with private sector.
Of course.
Right? And at that point, we started proposing the amendments. Verbally, the AG approved some, so like reducing the moratorium. And the collaboration there between private sector and public sector was something I never witnessed before in Trinidad and Tobago. Is you feel the support. So you start to see this new government and the way that they're operating. So then post-budget now, Minister Tanku is sitting down on stage and he says, look, I'm not going to talk about the budgets. I'm going to sit back and take questions. So they're listening to us now.
I was just about to say, it sounded like there's the only real difference was there was a listening phase.
Yeah.
A real listening phase.
Correct. You know,
with a hope to find a solution.
And then AG comes in to Attorney General John Jeremy comes into Parliament and says, we will stay here until 4 a.m. reading out this bill to make sure that the technocrats that we met with will get an enabling framework. So that's the type of like enablement I've never experienced before, and I've been begging for, you know. So there's definitely this big shift of tides with the change of government. I sound like I'm kind of bigging up the government here, but really and truly it was...
If that's what you experienced.
An incredible experience.
But that, as I said, if that is your experience in it, I guess I want to know that, and I think people would want to know that. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, this is our future as it relates to being connected. You use something borderless, but being connected as seamless as possible to everybody outside of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Which if you really look at it, the strongest economies have ease of business with as many other external partners as possible.
Yeah.
And this is just one aspect of that external business mechanism, which would be things like remittance and just making it easier and cheaper. I mean, am I against Western Union, MoneyGram? No, I'm not against them. But if somebody else is coming along with a more efficient, cheaper, easier system, where you're talking about the people in, I believe you said Toko had to drive, or wherever you said, had to drive far to get to a MoneyGram or a Western Union.
Yeah.
If it's making things easier and cheaper.
And the money coming to a local provider rather than going to a foreign provider.
Correct.
And innovations at your shores and begging for you to enable them, you know. So, and then you asked about the bill because it was a really interesting time, I think, for all of us. And I recommend anyone who's in any industry, before you didn't feel like the need to reach out to government because you never would have heard from them before, reach out.
Right.
If you're in an industry, reach out to the minister who's in charge of your industry and let them hear your voice, because they need to hear from you. Don't stop complaining, reach out. Because, their WhatsApps are open. This is how we're going to make change in the country. I want people in the country to just, start to conversate, and don't look at this government as what you're used to. Look at it as an enabling government who're going to listen to.
So I know you're going into the bill.
Yeah.
So I just want to provide just direction for that, because I would love to kind of flow.
Yeah.
I know you're going to go into it. What, and I want to know specifically what, and if you can, what sort of things did you personally propose, amendment-wise, and what things were proposed by the working group that the government was just like, we're not sure about that one.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I'm just curious, but I want you to go into the bill, but also just think of those two questions, because I would love to know. Yeah,
we proposed. What we did propose is that they work with the virtual assets working group.
So the sandbox.
Well, the group.
Oh, right. So just the initial conversations.
Yeah, kind of a task force working group is what usually need private sector to have a representative appoint person. So, initially what we did propose is that they work towards a comprehensive bill and not outright ban of cryptocurrency. And there was a back and forth. And we proposed a sandbox as well. So that idea came from the virtual asset working group.
Were you guys inspired at all by the sandbox program that they put in place in Barbados some years ago, pre-COVID?
Well, actually, the sandbox came from. Actually, this is recommendations. You go back all the way to 2023 when I was up on stage.
Right.
It more came from Singapore and the UK, actually. UK was the very successful sandbox that we leveraged. So Marie Khan, who's our chief legal officer at Zed, she brought in a lot of incredible information around, FATF and what did work, what didn't work. There's a lot of nuance to it, right? You can go into incredible amounts of details of what FATF need to see. So that's and it's important that industry like us have their input, right? So we said, we want a sandbox. but there's even particulars around the sandbox, right? So we won't get into that. We proposed the sandbox. We proposed reducing the moratorium. We proposed I proposed, easy win, already regulated financial institution, go through, like keep operating because you have your compliance officers and everything ready to go. And then you have the other players who aren't registered with the FIU, then they have to register and then come through. So that's what we at WAM proposed initially. And with the hopes that they're like, okay, well, these guys are regularly regulated and they want to do these virtual asset service provider operations. So, well, we have to kind of listen to them because they're playing by the rules. So, and then it's the virtual asset working group, the average age was probably around 33. So it's a bunch of young people who want to push the country forward. And that's the literature that's coming out, Ari from GWAP and myself. And, we're kind of also trying to empathize with them, just being like, guys, we want to actually push the country forward.
Yeah.
I think those are the main things there. Reduce the moratorium, allow a sandbox, and then have a better, more comprehensive regulatory framework that enables providers. And it was reasonable. So eventually what we did is we went to them and we proposed a reduction of the moratorium, a sandbox, and then some definitions within the bill that, just needed to be defined or refined. And and at that point it was 3 light touch regulations, and it was a way for us to show, hey, we're willing to collaborate here. Maybe just reduce the moratorium, but extend the window in which you can operate as well. That was the 2 things coming out of the last meeting. But then the big change was when Friday comes, we're waiting on the bill because they said they're going to share it with us, with the group, so that we can collaborate on it. And again, public-private partnerships has, in that regard, I haven't seen that framework, which is recommended by United Nations and Financial Action Task Force, collaborate with industry, and they're doing it, right? So then come time, they give us the bill, review it, and then all of the amendments that they put in, I think it's something like 45 amendments and major changes to the initial virtual assets bill, which enabled cryptocurrency providers that we were begging for within, and then what we were lobbying for throughout this entire initiative to move crypto from being banned to enabled in Trinidad and Tobago. So yeah, that's essentially what happened. We proposed the reduction of the moratorium, extension of the window for actually having the hard ban and the sandbox, and we got all of that.
And anybody can, private citizens wise, anybody can partake in the sandbox products?
I think it's actually existing VASPs. So what you have to do is you have to, let me just see here. What you would need to do is you need to showcase your volume. So if you are a VASP, an operating VASP, you'll have to showcase, your numbers and your volumes. It's all there within the survey. Excuse me. So once you have declared that you're a VASP, then that's kind of like registering.
And you're licensed?
No, you don't need to be licensed.
Okay,
entity.
cool.
So that's what the purpose of the sandbox is.
Right.
So just to get an understanding of what the sandbox is, people say, they're only going to let their friends into the sandbox. No, you state that you're a VASP, apply for the sandbox. Within the evaluation time, you are also allowed to continue operating. And within that moratorium period, you are going to be able to operate as a virtual asset service provider. And then the government, the SEC, who is the commission who's in charge of regulating, is going to collaborate with you to understand the business that you want to do and then regulate you as a VASP and create a VASP framework. So when time comes and FATF does the evaluation on Trinidad and Tobago, we have a practical framework for regulating assets in Trinidad and Tobago.
With all the players, with all of the back-end data.
Correct.
All that stuff.
Yeah, because we have nuanced players. We have GoApp with the ATMs. We have WAM with the EMI. We have remittances. We have just TT exchange, buy and sell cryptocurrency. There's all these different nuances of cryptocurrency assets. And then we also have the Forex shortage in the middle. So we have to have some sort of nuance around how we regulate assets, because if we were to drop a Trinidad and Tobago stablecoin on the blockchain one-to-one with the TT dollar, you'll quite quickly realize what the black market rate of the TT is. Quite
and
transparently.
It's interesting you brought up two points there, because those are my next two questions.
Okay, right.
One of them being, in all of this discussion, sandbox and the bill, do you see, like, is there chatter the Trinidad and Tobago Central Bank wants to issue a CBDC? Are they hoping that you all do the work of having that digital asset in the market?
We haven't heard. We've heard chatter around a CBDC, and we had conversations around with the central bank before. We had I think it was a year ago. We had a meeting with the crypto companies and the central bank when they were doing their studies and their research around things like CBDCs. There was a paper actually issued by the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago around stablecoins and CBDCs, and that paper lent more towards issuing CBDC because of the risks of private sector entity issuing these TT dollars. But what our feedback was, stablecoin, cryptocurrency is a retail asset. Your banks, you could just think of CBDC as e-money, right? We are licensed to issue e-money. Banks are licensed to issue e-money. A CBDC.
And you're pegged to the TT dollar as well.
Every dollar in our system, every e-money in Wam is backed by a TT dollar in a bank.
Right.
So what a CBDC really should be in our eyes is just, a wholesale TT dollar on the blockchain. And then it's just like e-money, and it's just in a different format. So that's what we were saying to them. So interestingly enough, on the 18th, we proposed a meeting with the central bank on the 18th of, when the bill dropped? It was October or September. And preparing for that meeting, we're proposing a TT stablecoin to the central bank. And on waiting for the meeting, the 12th lands, and that's when the virtual asset bill drops. And then the 18th comes, and that's when it went from a meeting of us saying, hey, we want to launch a stablecoin, a TT dollar stablecoin. And we're now having a conversation to be like, hey, we were going to do this, but now this bill completely obliterates the plans. Right. So that's just like a little extra context there. It's just like you're trying to progress, and then you just get a backhand.
Correct.
So yeah, in terms of the CBTT, we'll see what happens. Like if there's a CBDC that happens, I think it needs to benefit retail. That's what that central bank is, wholesale. When it starts to go into consumer, that's when it gets a little hairy, because you have people who aren't in touch with society as much. They're constantly, they're thinking about the macro. You need the micro to influence the macro. So that's why I think, you have the banks, you have the private sector, and then you have the public sector. So yeah.
And then the next question, based off of what you were saying, is how do you think this sandbox, not necessarily the sandbox, but the products that are being developed within the sandbox can assist our Forex issue, if at all? I'm not saying that it's their responsibility to do so, but how do you think that it can benefit our Forex situation?
Yeah, I think when it comes down to the Forex problem is the economy, right? We need to build up the backbone of Trinidad and Tobago, the economy, and the backbone of our economy is MSMEs. And you can talk to any MSME in Trinidad and Tobago, and they'll tell you, why is it so hard to be a business in Trinidad and Tobago? No one's incentivized to get a bank account, because why do that when you could just take cash and not have to pay tax because your government not doing anything for you? So why are you paying taxes for? Why not incentivized to do that? And so any small business is just operating cash based because they're not getting any benefits. Whereas when you move to these new digital services, like what we're developing in the sandbox, like what I was saying before, is we know blockchain is 10 years behind. If that's influencing our next virtual assets or financial ecosystem, it's a democratic, people-focused currency that is going to ultimately help grow the small man's business, the individual to be able to transact, people to be able to send money back and forth. So when you increase the velocity of capital moving in a country, you increase the buying and selling, you increase business transactions, you increase trade. That's when you that's when you increase the backbone of the economy. We've seen that with M-Pesa in
Nigeria.
Kenya.
Oh, Kenya, sorry.
Yeah, that M-Pesa was introduced. It grew the GDP of Kenya 4%. Right, that's like $1 billion US in if you look at our GDP. So instantly you start to free up capital, free up the MSMEs' reliance on each other and less reliance on imports. But also, what's happening now is when the digital age, people are consulting foreign. Like you talk to anyone who is a Trinidadian local with just Trinidadian enablement, they always have a problem with getting paid from a US company. It's always a problem. So with these blockchain-based assets and protocols and licenses in Canada and the US, and because WAP is also licensed in Canada, you have the ability for someone to be paid in the country from foreign, made so much easier now, so that people can start to offer their services and products outside and then increase the exports and thus make the economy healthy. So that to me is why it's gonna help solve the Forex problem, is because you're helping small businesses grow through innovation. And that's what, to me, really what a blockchain asset represents, right? It's just it is the most innovative financial instrument in the world. And it is disrupting industries globally. Whoever thought that the banks would have gotten disrupted, right? And that's what blockchain is doing. And then it's bringing power back to the people. And then that's a true democracy, right? When people are empowered, you have a true democracy and everything starts to rise. So ultimately...
Well, you remember Bitcoin's unofficial slogan back in 2009, 10, 11.
Yeah.
I think it was F banks.
Yeah,
along
those lines.
I still think that they should have gone a little bit more.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think that anything that makes business easier. I mean, we every time I have a conversation, that seems to come up with whoever I'm having a convo with. It seems to come up that the ease of business, of doing business in Trinidad is not where it needs to be, and we're feeling it. We feel it. I mean, it's. I mean, if you and I needed to drive to Trin City Mall right now, or Price Plaza, or Gulf City, it's 3:00. We sit in traffic for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That alone it makes it very, very difficult to do business.
Yeah.
And we didn't even touch on the financial aspects and how difficult it is to open a US bank account in this country.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'm not a big fan of artificial controls, and that is an artificial control.
For sure. I mean, yeah, there's in systems engineering, there's a saying called the purpose of a system is what it does. And the reason why they state that is because if it is that a system is hard, it's because it's made hard for a reason.
Right.
And it is a result of mismanagement, and it is a result of the
lack of innovation and a lot of other things.
Yeah, but I'd say basically the government just filling their pockets with our money and not giving it down to us and not empowering us and not wanting us to be uplifted because it's beneficial for them and not us. So yeah, when it comes down to it, we are being oppressed because our leaders were oppressive. And to me, that is like I guess a big shift of what I'm experiencing now. And then also you see it with any oil-based company. It's called the oil curse. You can read about it.
Of course, yeah. Extraction-based economies.
Right. And then that overall is the Dutch disease, which is, if any country drives too much towards one resource, then no diversification. And so, yeah, all these big problems that you have. And then because of that, they're not enabled. Like public infrastructure, enforcement of laws, all of that. It's all results.
Education system, health system, everything.
Yeah. Luckily, we did have, we are so educated now, like Trinidadian creatives. Like through that amount of capital that we did get, we got a good education system and a few things did trickle down, it couldn't have not.
Like GATE.
Yeah.
Even though there was the reason it's gone or it was whittled down is because of the massive corruption involved in certain institutions signing up their entire street and whole neighborhoods at their school just to get the payments from the government because they were all attending classes. Wow. So just in case anybody's not no longer has access to GATE, that's why.
Yeah, Peter paid for Paul. And Paul anti-working for the government.
I never heard that. I like that one. But where do you see, because all of this talk about digital and transformation and blockchain. I'm a big fan of blockchain. I'm also a fan of cash. Where do you see Trinidad and Tobago in 5 years, in 2030? Are we still paying with cash? Is cash just going to become more obsolete year on year on year on year? Is it as quick as 5 years? Is it 10 years? Where do you see it, specifically speaking, to digital assets and digital crypto TT-backed pegged stable coins and whatnot?
I mean, if you were to follow global trends, in Norway, I think like 1% of transactions in Norway are cash-based. If you go into a store in the States and you pull out cash, you're like, what drugs is this man dealing in? So
some stores just don't take cash anymore.
Yeah. So it definitely is going towards digital, right? And when you say that the world's going towards digital, immediately people start to think, well, the government going to track everything. But I mean, that's why.
I'm going there too. I'm going to ask you those questions. That's coming up.
Well, that's why Bitcoin is there. That's to keep banks honest, to keep financial institutions honest. There's always the ability for you to remain anonymous on the internet because of what cyberpunks do.
Yeah.
They keep things anonymous. They have anonymous chats. They have this, like, they have, what is it, Zcash now, if you want to go.
Monero, Zcash, yeah.
They have the tools for you to remain anonymous in a world, and now better off-ramps to be able to go globally and transact. So yes, we are going to a digital world, a more connected world, and I do believe cashes and physical analog things are going to be phased out. You kind of need to move with the times.
The US, I think, just printed their last round of pennies.
Yeah.
I believe, if I read the headline correctly.
Correct.
I think each penny, my father he's a facts guy. He just remembers things. And he was telling me each penny in the States, each 1 cent costs 4 cents to manufacture.
Yeah.
And so it makes no sense to make sense.
Yeah, unless, the penny did. So it's kind of the thing where you can have a loss generating asset where, or you loss
if it serves enough of a purpose.
Exactly. If the penny makes the economy 10 cents on every penny.
Right.
But it wasn't because nobody's using pennies.
Nobody's using pennies. I mean, we stopped making pennies, right? In Trinidad, or are we still making pennies?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question.
I actually can't remember. Yeah, it's true. But yeah, I mean, just talking about now, just to kind of go into what you had brought up, and I said I was going to ask. One of the things that I guess one of the fears of the CBDC that you read very often is that if we are in a cashless society and everything is digital, and you have your wallet that's issued by the state, by the government, or whoever it happens to be, and you are an enemy of that government or an opposition of that government, that they can interfere with your ability to access your funds. Like we saw it in the Canadian convoy with the truckers convoy and the COVID vaccine protest.
China's social system now.
China's social system. They cut off, they froze bank accounts. And then I was talking to some people back in 2022 at a wedding in New York, some Canadian people, and they were saying, they were glad for those truckers because they were creating a nuisance.
Yeah.
And that sort of thinking does scare me from somebody who game theories this sort of thing. It does scare me because are we going to be, or the majority of the people are going to be too compliant? Are we going to give away our privacy? So that's why I ask the things these types of questions.
Yeah.
Is a CBDC, now I may be for this kind of debate, is more of a nuanced conversation, but should a government-backed CBDC, should that be like a government-issued CBDC, should that be only allowed to be spent on certain things, like what we're seeing with the EBT stamps in the States now, where you can only purchase certain items from these things? How dystopian am I sounding? I mean, are these threats? Are these concerns that we should have? I mean, in your own system, how do you all build in your checks, your balances, your transparency, your privacy? I mean, what kind of thing can you speak to on that?
So I think ultimately, the way I think about it is that you're always gonna have citizens who have power in numbers, and then government who have power in enforcement, battling against each other, and them understanding how powerful they are and how powerful they aren't. And it all depends on the governance of each country, how much of power and influence do they have versus the people. But I think there's always going to be power in numbers that individuals have. Hopefully, that's my hope.
Yeah.
Because we always think creatively of ways to empower ourselves. And I think Bitcoin is a great example of that because, it started to get complacent in a system and accept that this is the way banking is. And then Bitcoin comes and fractures it all and allows innovation to happen. And now you have ETFs in the stock market, right? So it's people and people-driven and a people-based innovation is creeping into all of your financial sectors and even government now with the Genius Act, right? So I do think that you're always going to have that battle. That's going to be the everlasting fight, unless true power and democracy comes. But there's still always going to be governance. I think you see it popping up all the time. The efficiency of a top-down government is sometimes unrivaled, and you can see that versus like DAOs versus how Ethereum started in the early days.
Yeah.
So I think that it's always going to be at play.
Because because it bothers me. It does bother me every time I hear it. Even somebody says it in jest. We ain't riot yet.
Oh yeah.
It bothers me. Like it bothers me. I think I'm amazed that not more was done in opposition of that one little statement.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
and enough people bring it up still to this day that it shows how viscerally contempt from a government to its populace can be felt. It's still we are still. I don't think I'll ever bring up that because every time a government doesn't listen or does something adverse to the populace, the term "they ain't riot yet" pops into my head as we are complacent people.
Yeah.
But I don't want the government to look at us as a complacent people, but we are, and they know that we are. So it's.
I think why is because you go back to kind of the oil crisis and the Dutch disease and the government has so much control. They have economic control. Look what happened when the government changed is every time the government changes, new board assigned to major institutions that hired large numbers of the citizens. So when I came back, when you're in crypto, you're very anti-establishment, right?
Yeah.
And you're a little anarchical. So when I come back and I'm looking at how Trinidad is, and I come from a first world country as well. So that alone is getting me vexed with then understanding how Trinidad can be, because you grow up with this in the industry in the blockchain, and you're surrounded by everybody. It's very anti-establishment. So you come back home and you're like how are people really?
We're on YouTube. We can
this?
cuss.
Yeah, true, right.
I'm joking.
How people accepting this. And I, if you followed me in the early days when I came back home, I just cussed in the government left, right, and center. And I started doing business a little more with traditional people. And then I'm getting messages, hey, take that down. You can't say that. Hey, boy, my career is at risk. We can't work together now, everything. So, you see it.
Wow.
And that
There's
is because...
There's a fear.
Because if you speak out to the government, your lifeline get cut.
Right.
You can't bite the hand that feeds you. So the government feeding half the population. I think it's around 60% of the population. They own TSTT.
We employ like what 40% or something like that.
Crazy amount. Actually, don't need statistics.
30 or 40%.
TSTT. They own.
I could be wrong.
Caribbean Airlines. Through the Clico thing, they now own Angostura, Majority Republic,
TSTT,
Bank, First Citizens, NGC. You start to name all these organizations and then you realize, wait a minute, the government has control over major institutions and a large amount of the population. Obviously, there's fear because same thing, you can't.
And governments don't manage things properly.
Well, yeah. And
they don't, unless you're, unless you're Norway.
Yeah, or Singapore, or Lee Kuan Yew, or
there are very few governments that you can stand on a box and say, yeah, they manage things properly. Correct. The Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund, the United Arab Emirates Sovereign Wealth Fund. I mean, these things are...
Yeah, you hope that the government starts to privatize these things, which we have from ministers, that they expressed interest in privatizing a large parts of the now public publicly owned assets, and then, fingers crossed, Kamala stays true to her word, and we start to see a government that can actually enable the private sector, because that's all you need to do. You just need to fertilize the soil. You need to enable the people who actually doing good for the country,
employing people, paying taxes,
outside of your
buying, selling.
Yeah, no more nepotism. Just see people who doing good work and enable them with opportunity, infrastructure, and capital, and education. Just
incentives, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and people go where the money's at, right? So you just need to hold the carrot at the end of it, and then have good programs and enable people, and you'll have the best government. You just need to be a good coach or team, player. You don't really need to have a skill or an asset to make an innovative society. So at the end of the day, I think this was a roundabout way of going to things, but I do think it's that public-private relationship is always going to be back and forth, and we just hope. I think it's oftentimes you hope that you're voting in someone, but we as a country, as citizens, we didn't have that appetite or will to really push against even things like when you want to riot, when you want to have a petition, you need to get approved by the government, and then at that time, once you get your approval, the topic isn't hot anymore, and people can't actually go out in the street, which they've done before, right? Like with Andrea Barat. So that was a really good showing of how broken the judicial system was. I think there are reforms that need to be made within government for sure.
Well, I think that's everywhere.
More power.
Yeah, I think that's everywhere.
But as long as we keep pushing, I think running out of oil is a good thing for us. People say it's bad.
We ain't running out of oil.
Yeah,
oil is the second most abundant liquid on the planet.
Oh, we are, yeah.
Oil.
We are running, we have kind of started to run out of our natural resources.
Like the deep well stuff. I don't know. I know nothing.
Yeah, our production has reduced.
No, I know the production has reduced, but the oil that we have within our territory, both land and waters, isn't it still a large amount?
If we just look at the production amounts, it shows a weakening government economically. That's the point to make here.
I think that's totally clear, but is it because we have not been drilling as much?
I believe there's no more exploration because we're running out of natural resources within the wells, and production has reduced. But there's more exploration happen, as we've seen with Exxon and
the dragon gas and those sorts of things.
And then you can talk about what's going on in Venezuela right now. But we'll keep that off the tables. But very interesting times. And I think the reason why I bring that up is because if the government has significantly less economic control, then the people have more of a voice. And you're seeing that happen now.
Right.
I think you're seeing the government paying a lot more attention. That might just be because of a switch of a good government, or you're seeing that
we've run out of money to throw at the fire.
What's going on with our foreign reserves? How much money do we actually have inside?
Yeah, I think in 4 or 5 years we have no more USD.
Yeah, and they've been draining and pulling from that
constantly.
The last government, and so it's drastically reduced. So they need money. They need to think of creative ways to do so, and now they're turning to the people to do it, and that's why I think we have a good chance. And in a time like now, when fintech is just coming to our shores, fintech is the most profitable and viable industry to push our technology industry forward. You see it in Africa. 9 out of 10 of these startups in Africa, 9 out of 10 of the unicorns in Africa, fintech. Next is like marketplaces. So in emerging markets, you're seeing this global shift. People are starting to look towards Africa now because you're getting these massive growths with startups based around fintech and everything that's happening around them. So we have a very interesting time now where we can really bring forth change to Trinidad. And what does that ultimately mean? Creatives like yourself who just want to do good and really represent Trinidad on a global stage, because we know we can, because we've seen it happen. We've seen everyone climb to the top of ladders incorporated globally. We now have a chance to really represent what the people could be done when something is enabling them.
So the bill read Friday.
Yeah.
What can we expect going forward? For you and the bill?
For us now, we start to launchy products that are both crypto hybrids and crypto based.
Which you've launched, correct?
We launched the wallet. So the wallet is peer-to-peer. It's e-money. There's nothing outside of the regulations that we've developed there. We kept it by the book. And now we're working with Central Bank and SEC within the sandbox to responsibly launch products to the citizens so that we get a general populace on board and we grow with our users. And we just do product launch after product launch. We have them all lined up in the pipeline.
Right.
And we'll go with initial user base and then launch on product, initial user base, the same product life cycle. And you'll start to see that rolling out with us. So us collaborating with government because we have to be regulated, and then we're going to be helping hopefully draft the policy. We've seen good feedback from the government and the SEC in terms of collaboration. So the CEO of the SEC, Keston Guy, in those meetings was very focused on enabling the industry. So we have people within there who are enabling. And with that support, I think we'll start to launch some progressive and innovative products. And the goal is to, and we are collaborating with banks as well. So all 3 banks, we have conversations with all 3 local major banks and beyond. We have conversations with them and they are listening to us and innovating. We just had a hackathon with Republic Bank that ended yesterday.
Nice.
Presented a really innovative solution that hopefully comes to light soon. And
is it a better online banking platform? Because I would be in favor. I would vote for that.
Yeah.
I use Republic Bank's online banking. It works.
Yeah.
It's just ugly.
Yeah.
Sorry, Republic.
Yeah. I mean, they know it. They definitely know it. And I think like a Zelle of the Caribbean is what I'd like to see.
True.
Come to light when I can just say, send money back and forth.
You think Wam has what it takes to be the Zelle for the Caribbean?
I think we are prime contenders. Yeah,
I would say so.
Sure.
I would say so as well.
Appreciate that.
But I would say, I guess in closing, I look forward to the innovation. I've been in this space for a long time as a general user and a builder in metaverse products and stuff like that. I want to see massive successes for you all and all of these companies because I know that will mean positive, beneficial, innovative change for the country as a whole. I know that because I know the technology, I know the industry, and I look forward to having you on in a few months, maybe next year. We'll grab you once things kind of spin up and I see some products launch and I could kind of bring you back and we can do some testing of the app on the show itself and on all the products that you're doing. But I mean, any closing stuff? Any closing remarks?
Closing remarks really would be, it hasn't been easy. And this is probably one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life.
When it's worth it, it's usually hard, right?
Yeah, when there's big problems, there's big opportunities. And I want people to not have to go through the same hardship. If you do interact with any of our products, just to know that the team behind it is aiming at pushing people and country forward. And if reach out, you don't feel like we're not approachable. We created a co-working space for you to come and work in and be around other change makers. So
I still have to come and see it.
Yeah, come through, be a part of the ecosystem. Maybe we could do a podcast in the next one.
I'm down. I'm sure Cameron in the back is already sweating.
Yeah, and I really, my hope is that we can all innovate together. We want to create innovative environments for people to be inspired by others and their environment as well, and to continue to push the country forward, to collaborate together. And, I may not have the capacity at all times to be able to reach out and contact you. Getting me on the podcast, it's not that I didn't want to come, it's just that my WhatsApp is just filled with messages and I need an executive assistant, but I don't have enough money to hire an executive assistant. So that's when I say it's hard, where you're trying to push the country forward, but people don't see all the things that are holding you back, as you would know.
Yeah.
As a creative, just trying to, all the visions, and if you just had this extra amount of capital to push forward. So it's kind of a message to be like, be patient with what people are offering, because at the end of the day, the people behind the scenes, Trinidad could be so much more than what it is. And you have to recognize it and collaborate and look at people and say, what can I do to help them? Think about community and then think about how we could grow together.
Yeah, bringing back community would be a big asset.
So, I think that's my last message, is that it was harder than it needed to be, but going forward, it doesn't have to. And we have enabling tools that will help us get there. So let's all collaborate and move forward. So,
sweet.
That's the last one.
Thank you for coming on. I think that, I know a lot more now about what's going on. So, and I think that a lot of people are going to appreciate that, because it's kind of hard to follow sometimes. People are busy with their own lives and their own pains of bills and all of those good stuff. But so that's why I guess this podcast, we want to kind of break things down, and I invite people on that I want to learn from.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that it just kind of passes on to whoever watches as well. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, man. You are the perfect vehicle.
Keep going with your thing, because as I've been in blockchain for a long time, I want to see this. I want to see the country progress and innovate, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, us too. We just hope that we are stepping stone to greater things, and that's it.
So, well, I'm gonna harass you next year to come on again, so just prepare for it one time.
I'm ready. You know it.
Thanks again, Mark.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers.
Come on.